Chief Lin didn't use words like impossible, not on Station Ravel, not with Commander Vantok listening, but the den was quiet in a way that made the skin behind her ears prickle. 3. Garenar cubs, Kal, Bera, Kirek, were sprawled in a protective arc around a human who hadn't moved for 5 cycles. Vitals? Vantok asked, stepping up to the observation glass. Steady, Lin said. Deep rest, regular respiration, slow heart rate, no distress. Cubs? Also steady. Aggression markers bottomed out. Bonding hormones elevated. They haven't eaten. They haven't left. Vantok angled his head. Garenar were apex predators, raised on a death world where mercy was a myth. Young ones were all teeth and momentum. Until this. Kal's claws rested near Juno Rhea's shoulder, not in threat, but like a guard's hand on a hilt. The other two breathed in rhythm with her, chests rising and falling, as though someone had stitched their lungs together. Seal the fan. Access, Vantok said softly. No one goes in, not even Med. Commander, if the human dies here, I know. His voice was too calm. If she dies, the Alliance fractures. If the Cubs break containment, we lose the deck. If we touch them, we might trigger both. The den stayed quiet, the kind of quiet you only hear before storms. Juno Reyes wasn't a soldier. She was a contractor who turned ugly data into gentle doors people could actually walk through. Her project: redesign the conflict de-escalation consoles for the diplomatic ring. And like most of the humans who kept ships moving, she lived on coffee and deadlines. Her logs told the story. 92 cycles with micro-naps, never a proper sleep. Her messages were polite and efficient. Her trash folder was a graveyard of snoozed reminders that never woke again. The only indulgence on her work tablet was a folder named Creatures, bursting with short clips of non-human babies being chaotic and adorable. She'd asked for 15 minutes in the cub enclosure to reset my brain. Lin had almost refused, then saw the trembling in the woman's hands and the way her voice went soft, saying please, and relented with tight rules. Juno had sat cross-legged on the warmed composite, murmuring, "Hey, murder marshmallows," and the cubs, noses twitching, had padded over with the deadly curiosity of things that would one day tear armored doors off hinges. 15 minutes became a stillness that swallowed 5 cycles. Now, standing at the glass, Vantok studied the curve of Juno's body. Knees tucked, one arm under her cheek, mouth parted, not collapsed, sleeping like she trusted the room, sleeping like she didn't know what the galaxy had taught the Garenar about weakness. "Commander," Chief Lin said, flicking a cluster of graphs into the air. "You need to see this." Colored bands rolled and stacked. Cortisol, norepinephrine low, oxytocin, vasopressin high, hypothalamic activity stabilized. In the cubs, not the human. We ran interference checks. It isn't bleed from the monitors. Lin's tail tip twitched. Their endocrine profile looks like bonded adults in low-threat nesting. "That's not a cub profile," Vantok said. "No, sir. Is the cohesion array bleeding into the habitat?" "It's offline for retrofit. Juno's team pulled the UI 2 days ago. So, not the station, not the glass, not the air. Her." Vantok watched as Kal's ribcage rose and fell in time with Juno's. "They're sinking to a human rest state," he said, the words tasting absurd and true in the same breath. "And they won't eat unless she eats," Lin added. "If we bring food again and she doesn't wake, they'll starve by choice." "Choice," Vantok murmured. "Or recognition." He pinged Central. "Flag a soft alert to diplomatic. Keep it quiet. If this leaks before we understand it, we won't get a second chance to fix what breaks." The tremor wasn't physical. It was the kind that runs through a system when a fact refuses to be denied. Counselor Sarah arrived without entourage, slim, scarred, intent eyes going straight to the den. "My niece has a cub here," she said. "If she hears rumors before we do, we're finished." "Then don't give her rumors," Vantok said. "Give her a plan." Sarah studied the screens. "Garenar, respect strength, Commander. Every story we tell our young begins with conquest. And what does this story begin with?" Sarah's jaw worked. "A human sleeping where she should have been prey. And the cubs? Committing an act our philosophers don't have a word for." She exhaled. "Not surrender, not submission. Something older. Choosing to stand between softness and harm." Vantok nodded to Lynn. "Remote neural stimulus, lowest safe amplitude. We need to know if outside action breaks their calm." Lynn's hands hovered. "If they perceive threat, that's the test." She pulsed the den. Nothing from Juno. All at once. 3 heads up, eyes hard, bodies tensed. Not toward the door, but toward the ceiling, toward the projector node hidden in the baffle. Predators who could not see the source of a thing, but knew it existed. "Enough," Vantok said. "We just taught them we can touch her without touching her. And they still didn't strike," Sarah said softly. "They tightened the circle instead." Alarms laced the deck. "Docking signatures," Lynn snapped. 16 ships. Garenar military. Broadcasting parental seals and warrior oaths. "They're not asking." "Of course they aren't," Sarah said. "If the cubs have been unmade, they'll unmake whoever did it." General Falar came with the first wave armor scarred, mane bound with campaign rings. He halted before the glass, and for a heartbeat, Vantok saw a father, not a war figure. "Name the human," Falar said. "Juno." "Raise," Vantok replied. "Contractor. No augmentations, no weapons, no ideology." Falar's nostrils flared. "Then why do my young breathe like nest guards?" "Because she sleeps like it's safe to," Sarah said, meeting his gaze. "And they decided to make it true." Falar looked almost insulted. "You think we cannot keep our own safe?" "I think safety that isn't chosen is just a closed fist," Sarah said. "Your cubs chose." The general's eyes flicked to the readouts. "They haven't eaten." "Bring food," Vantok said. "Let's see who they're waiting for." It happened the ordinary way. A change in Juno's breath. A slow stretch. The dazed blink of a person surfacing through warmth. Cal chuffed softly. Bera's ears twitched. Kirek's tail thumped once, careful not to hit her. Oh wow." Juno rubbed her face, then squinted at the ceiling. "Is it still the same day?" Her voice over the comm was smaller than the data had made her. Human, tired, unafraid. She reached out and scratched Cal under the jaw. "Hey, Marshmallow Menace, did I conk out?" Lynn toggled the mic. "Miss Reyes, this is Chief Lynn. How do you feel?" "Like someone put my brain through a dishwasher, and it came out clean." Juno looked around. "Did I miss the meeting? Please tell me I didn't miss the meeting." "Later," Vantok said. "First, you need to know your nap rearranged our understanding of an apex species." Juno blinked. "My nap?" "The cubs mirrored your rest, refused food, suppressed aggression, and defended you from remote stimulation," Sarah said, "all while we panicked quietly." Juno's mouth made an O. "Guys, I just fell asleep. Humans do that, a lot. We're very good at unconsciousness." "Eat," Falar said, voice low through the intercom. Juno laughed in relief. "Yes, please. Coffee, and something for my cuddle committee." Food dropped through the dispenser. The cubs waited. Actually, waited until Juno tore a pack open and took a bite, then dove in with the single-minded joy of the suddenly starving. Falar watched them eat together and had to look away. Peace makes a certain kind of person furious. Varric had the look of zeal that cracks teeth, a Garenar traditionalist whose rank pin had more polish than experience. He cornered Lynn at the console. "You let an alien alter our young," he hissed. "You call it a miracle. I call it sabotage." "It altered nothing," Lynn said, not looking up. "It revealed capacity your stories buried." Varric's hand hovered over the manual override. "Open the den." "No." Vantok's shadow fell over him. "You want to prove the cubs still understand violence. They do. They're restraining it." Varric's jaw clicked. Restraint is cowardice dressed as virtue. "It's aim," Sarah said from behind him. "Come with me, Zealot. Let's see if your courage survives an experiment." She led him to an auxiliary room with view slats into the den. "Stand there. Show your throat. Hold the posture of non-threat. Do not move. Do not speak." Varric swallowed, exposed his neck in the old sign. Through the slat, Carl saw him, catalogued the posture, then yawned and flopped closer to Juno's hip. Varric's cheeks flushed. "Now bare your teeth," Sarah said. He did. 3 heads rose. Not a growl attention. 1 heartbeat. 2. Varric's teeth hid themselves without his permission. "Your young aren't broken," Sarah murmured. "They're learning to read a wider language. Engineers found it by accident, a hairline seam behind the warming bed, older than the habitat. Under the panel, an empathic lattice, pre-contact tech, meant to amplify mammalian co-regulation signals. The lattice was inert without a catalyst. It needed a species that broadcast safety like a lighthouse. "Humans," Lynn said, stunned. "Their rest, state breath, heart, variability, scent profile this thing magnifies it across about 7 meters. So the lattice helped," Vantok said. "But it didn't start anything." Sarah nodded. "A tool doesn't create the hand that uses it." They rolled the lattice offline to see if the spell broke. It didn't. The room felt smaller without it, but the cubs still matched Juno's exhale, still checked the door, still ate only when she did. "Baseline behavior remains," Lynn said. "Amplification gone, core intact." Vantok tapped the glass. "What else are we missing that makes peace possible?" That was when the sabotage alert bloomed red. Someone had armed a scissor charge on the ventilation spine, feeding the den set to pop a sound spike in the human hearing range, the kind that turns rest into panic. Varric's badge ID flashed on the maintenance log. "Lock him out," Vantok said. "Loop the detonation to the empty training pen." The spike fired. Cal's head whipped toward the duct in the training pen camera, a snarl slicing the air. In the den, he merely nudged Juno closer with a careful forepaw and settled again. Falar turned to Varric, who'd already begun a protest. "Enough," the general said. "You tried to prove we are only one thing. We are not." Juno returned the next cycle with 2 things, her tablet and on Lynn's gentle request time. She worked, then she rested, letting the cubs see both. When frustration pinched her shoulders, she breathed the way therapists back on Earth had taught her, in crowded kitchens and over bad connections. In through the nose, long and easy, then longer out, she said softly. "We tricked the nervous system into thinking the saber-tooth went away." Cal, Bera, Kirik listened the way young warriors listen to knife lessons. Breath in, breath out. The room shifted around that rhythm. Counselor Sarah arranged a controlled trial parents in the gallery. Med teams ready. Nothing invasive. 2 juvenile Garenar. Different lineage. Den. No lattice. No tricks. The human sat, palms open. "You don't have to like me," Juno said to them through the speaker. "You don't have to be gentle. You don't have to be anything. I'm just going to breathe like the danger went past, and you can do whatever you need." The juveniles prowled, tested the edges. Shoulders loosened. One lay down first, then the other, not touching, but within her breath. Parents watched their past and future tear quietly and reweave. Falah stood at the back, expression unreadable, until finally he said, "We used to tell our children that a warrior's first weapon is hunger. I am beginning to think their first weapon is knowing when to put a weapon down." Varric did not speak. He had no story for this. Policy memos poured like monsoon rain. Identify legacy lattices. Install rest-safe spaces in juvenile habitats. Pair every cohort with a cross-species calm tutor. Human, Kexin, Oratai, anyone whose biology could model safety without submission. Train keepers to read the microsigns that mean we're choosing not to strike. Archive the day. Station Ravel learned that vulnerability, handled with care, is an accelerant for trust. Juno's contract was extended with a new title she threatened to put on a mug: behavioral interface, consultant, and unapologetic napper. She pushed a patch to the de-escalation consoles that defaulted the UI to a breathing pace subtle enough you'd only notice when your shoulders dropped. On the observation deck, Vantok signed the last authorization and let himself watch the den like a person, not a commander. Juno lay on her side, not because she had to, but because three hopeful faces expected the ritual. Cal's breath was steady, Bera's ear flicked, Kirek's tail made a lazy arc that didn't touch a single cable. Sarah stepped up beside him. "You going to tell her she changed doctrine across 4 systems by sleeping? She'll think we're making fun of her," Vantok said. "We'll tell her when we have language that doesn't turn it into a joke." "Humans already have a word," Sarah said. "Nap, down in the den," Juno murmured without opening her eyes. "It's just a nap, you little menaces," Cal rumbled, a sound too soft for war. If you'd translated that rumble into speech and given it a child's tilted head, it would have sounded like, "Then why do you look so peaceful?" Because that's how the galaxy changes, sometimes quietly, on the outbreath, while 3 future legends learn that the strongest thing in the room is the choice not to hurt what trusts you.